Thanks for tuning into our seller interview series. Up today, we've got an e-commerce dropshipping site in the motorcycle niche. The site makes right around $4,000 per month in net profit, and the listing number on this one is 40365. Now, we do these interviews to give potential buyers more information about both the seller and the sites they're looking to purchase. We hope these insights are helpful for you in making a buying decision. We've got the seller Evan with us today to go through the business, cover everything from niche selection to traffic and monetization. Thanks for coming on, Evan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Glad to be here.
All right, but let's do a quick summary or overview of the business. It was built in January 2012. The monthly revenue on this is $8,379 a month. That's a 12-month average. We've got expenses at $4,430 a month. We've got net profit at $3,950 a month. Again, that's a 12-month average. There's an eBay store that's included with this business. We're listing and selling it at a 26x multiple. It means 26 times the net monthly profit. And you've got a 47% margin. Does that kind of describe everything? Does that explain the business?
Yeah, that's a very good overview.
All right, Evan, so if you could give me a bit of background kind of in your experience in building and running websites or online businesses. How'd you get into all this?
Sure. Well, I got into kind of the online side of things through building and running forums probably close to 10 years ago. And that kind of got me involved on the outside of e-commerce. I, started playing with running a store on the forums and selling t-shirts and that kind of stuff to go along with it. So that kind of got me interested in this kind of thing. And then I just kind of expanded it. I wanted to go into more focus on a store with, lots of different products and really try and do e-commerce as a main line of income.
What was your interest in switching from running a forum to e-commerce? Was it that, you wanted a physical product, or was it the niche in particular? Like, what were you thinking?
So, well, I really wanted to do something that I was passionate about, which is motorcycles. And I also wanted to have a tangible product. So kind of half of what we do is drop shipping, which is obviously easier because you don't have to carry any inventory. And the other part of it is, actually selling a part of something that I'm interested in, which is motorcycle parts. And getting away, forums were a great intro to this, especially having a kind of an attached online store, but you have the whole overhead of running a forum, which is really difficult and time consuming.
Gotcha. So in terms of niche selection, you want to do something you're passionate about, something you really liked. You're into motorcycles already. Said, look, I think I can get into this business. And then you found some products you thought that might be a good fit. I mean, did you vet the market at all? Did you look at the other products, or like how did that work before you actually started?
Yeah, well, I originally got into this. I was actually working for a separate business manufacturing these kind of parts. So I was I'm an electrical engineer. I was actually doing the product design myself, which is not at all necessary or even related to continuing the business, but it's kind of how I got into this, was through the R&D angle. And through there, I had experience with manufacturing in China and importing and then selling in the U.S. online. And that's kind of what opened the door to this for me to, get my foot in the door with actually building motorcycle parts. So the business it has two pieces. It's manufacturing parts in China, inventorying, warehousing, and, selling them on our own website, as well as the eBay, and then the drop shipping part of the business, which kind of gives you a lot of different angles to attack here. It gives you a couple of different revenue streams.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about why you're selling the site. Why sell it now instead of just keeping it and growing it out for another few years?
Sure. Well, the main reason for selling it is I'm moving halfway across the country now, and I've really put a lot of thought into it, and I just don't want to move the business and take it with me.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what's your plan for the cash when you sell? Are you planning on, taking a trip to Hawaii? Are you going to reinvest in another business? What are you looking to do?
Probably buy a house. That's my main goal right now.
Ed, that's funny. That's actually common. So we have a lot of people that sell websites or online businesses and then take that cash and redeploy it into, a physical property. We had a couple of friends of ours buy their first house with a site they sold with us. So it's pretty cool.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, probably where most of it would go. I think that's the next step. I don't know that I'll get into real estate really, but at least get a home started and maybe look into some other properties after that.
All right, man, let's talk a little bit about the site history. I know the site was built in 2012. Can you tell me a little bit about the trajectory of the business when it first started off? Was it like an immediate success? Did it take a few months to kind of get up and running? How'd that work?
It definitely took a few months. It originally started with an e-commerce store that I built myself built on an open source platform, probably OpenCart, or so. I believe it was OpenCart. And I ran it that way for a while with what I found was having this, especially in the motorcycle industry, it was really critical to have extremely efficient make, model, year selector tied into the website. Since these parts fit a specific year, make, model of motorcycle, if the customer can't easily drill down to parts that fit their model, then the website's kind of worthless. I had a lot of trouble tying that into an open source e-commerce platform because they're just not built around automotive or motorcycle parts. And the attributes and different things you can tie to parts in a web store on that platform, it's just too difficult, and it made it really difficult for the customer. So from there, we use a company that's located in California called Web Design Solutions, using their web shop manager platform, which is very cool for motorcycle or automotive e-commerce sites because it's actually built around an amazing year, make, model selector.
Wow.
That was a key thing that I looked for and took a while to find somebody that really knew that well. And these guys that host, and they built the website and they host it, and they have done an amazing job with that.
When you first started saying that, I was like, with all the website templates and themes, there's got to be someone out there that's done it around auto parts. There's got to be some kind of site you can get around.
Well, you don't think about it at first, but it's actually, it's critical if you're selling those kind of parts. And it took a while to really find somebody that understood that, but that's exactly why I went with these guys.
Awesome. So you started off with e-commerce. So you were sourcing the products yourself from China initially. You had them probably in your garage or something, or maybe a warehouse. Did you have a supplier? Did you have a warehouser that was doing it for you, or were you doing it yourself?
No, I was doing it myself. I had, as I was saying earlier, from a previous job working in R&D and production, I already had manufacturing contacts in China, and I still have great relationships with the factories that I've used to produce these parts. So at the beginning, I rented a small office space at a local shop here, a local motorcycle shop that a buddy owned. Just rented some small office space. I got this up and running in a 15 square foot or 15 by 15 room, something like that. Yeah. Warehousing and office space. So I was doing it all myself, packing, shipping, doing all the phone and email sales and website sales. And, it took a little while to ramp it up, but it wasn't too long before it started rolling.
At some point, you decided to add some drop shipping features to the site. So you started, drop shipping some products. Was the reason for that, it was too hard to source the products, or did you just not want the hassle of inventory?
Both. It's not that it's hard to source the products. The factory's perfectly happy to build you anything, any part for any model. The main reason was it allowed me to quickly expand my application list. So what I mean by that is I'm making a set of parts. Let's just say they fit 50 different types of motorcycles. Well, it's going to take me a while to have the money to invest in building new parts to fit, to expand out to fit all these other year, make, and model of motorcycles. Well, a quick way to cover those so people can come to my store and get a part for any bike they think of is to add parts from other suppliers that'll drop ship for me. Yeah, so I'm not losing out on a sale. So somebody doesn't show up and, their chances are they're going to find a part they need. I may not have it on the shelf, but I can still sell it to them.
Gotcha. So it's a cash flow thing too. It takes money to buy the inventory to kind of expand the business. And you're thinking a way around that is to expand it by drop shipping because I don't have to outlay all the cash for those different products. Isn't that an opportunity with the business though, where for the products that are doing really well with dropshipping, you can simply start, sourcing them yourself and get better margins?
Correct. And yeah, you nailed it right there. That after doing this for quite a while and doing it both ways, both production, inventory, and shipping myself and drop shipping, the most efficient way that I see to do this, and I think the best future for this type of business, is to add as many dropship parts as you can. You kind of use that as your testing ground. You see what sells the best. And then those are the parts that you go build yourself next and, increase your margin on them.
All right, we're going to get into that a bit when we talk about opportunities. Right now, I want to talk about, in general, when you built this site, is there anything that just worked? You have some experience in running this online business. You've kind of gone through some ups and downs, I'm sure. Was there anything you learned from building this business that you could apply to new models or new businesses that you run in the future that you're like, wow, that was a winner?
Well, probably customer service is the number one thing. I think anybody that's interested in going into this kind of business has to be somewhat interested in dealing with people because, you're, especially for a small business, you're going to be providing a lot of the customer service and support yourself. And I really think that's overlooked a lot of the time, but it can be the number one reason for gaining you recurring customers and getting people to come back and say, hey, the last time I bought from you was excellent. You had exactly what I need, and I need this. And even if you can't provide it, you could source it for them or get a new part for your lineup. And I think that, you can't overlook that. And that was one of the earliest things that I put a lot of work into, was really going, above and beyond to help people out, and then getting them to come back for me for other things, which I was then happy to source and sell to them.
Do you know off the top of your head what percentage of your customers are repeat customers?
Oh, I could guess, but I don't have any sort of accurate number. Probably 10%, maybe.
Okay. So you get some recurring, but it's not a major part of your business.
No, it's not major, but it lets you, I guess what I'm trying to reinforce is it lets you add new product, going direct to the customer, and, they'll come back to you and they need something different that you don't have. It gives you a way to add new things that you might not have been able to do the research yourself to see what was popular.
It's also good word of mouth. They're going to tell other people, other buddies that are into motorcycles as well. Hey, I need this. I can help you out.
Right. That gets you people posting on Facebook, which you really can't, disregard anymore because it's huge. Just the word of mouth there, and, passing everybody who rides motorcycles talks to other people who ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
So, that word gets passed around pretty quickly.
Have you tried anything with this business that you tried and failed that just for whatever reason you couldn't make work?
Yeah, let me think for a second. Well, not really with the type of parts. I mean, some applications, I've built some parts and tried selling some parts for specific a specific bike that I thought would be popular and turned out not to be. So yeah. I suppose that you really, in this industry, and I'm sure this goes for automotive and probably lots of other industries as well, you're not always going to be right, but you really need to do a lot of research into what, if you're going to build something new, you need to make sure you have a really good customer base for it. Otherwise, you can sink a lot of money into, building or producing those parts for something that, you might not sell quickly.
That's interesting. So a new bike is coming out or whatever, and there's a whole bunch of hype around it, and you're like, oh my God, this bike is going to crush it. I should get this, this, and this for this bike. And it comes out and, like the actual launch is lackluster, right? So I could see how that would be pretty disappointing. But you want to go for it, right? I mean, you want to be early in on a potentially really high selling, really popular bike because you want to have the parts and inventory for it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And that's some of the best, being correct about that, about what was going to be the next up and coming model that was going to be super popular, has made me a lot of money in the past. So, it's just, but that requires, it's not even really motorcycle specific knowledge. It just requires doing research, to really know that next thing coming out that you want to produce something for, you got to make sure it's, going to be the right thing. And if it is, you can do extremely well.
So staying up in the industry is definitely helpful.
Yeah, I think that goes for, probably every industry out there. That's not at all motorcycle specific, but it just can't be overlooked.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about traffic and earnings. Do you know, just off the top of your head and kind of generally, like what percentage of the traffic is organic, what percentage is referral, what percentage is direct or social?
Oh, geez, I'd have to look at the analytics. I would guess the majority is organic for sure.
You don't do any paid traffic right now, right?
No, not anymore. I have in the past, and it produces. It really does. Mainly Google AdWords is what I've used and had the best results with. The reason I don't do it anymore is it's time consuming. And it just got to the point where I didn't want to focus my time on that because I was doing okay without it.
Yep.
However, you can't overlook that. I mean, if you put the time into managing AdWords correctly, it will pay off extremely well.
Another question I had is how stable are the earnings? So is it like up one month and really down the next month, or is it pretty regular? Is there any seasonality to the industry?
Yes, there absolutely is. With the motorcycle industry, it is seasonal, and you definitely have a curve. The winter time is the slowest by far. You're kind of at your peak in the summer. You're on the rise through spring, definitely in the peak through the summer, and fairly well through the fall, and you will taper off in the winter. And
this site might be a good hedge against, let's say I have quite a big Amazon portfolio, and those sites generally do like a lot better in the winter, right? Especially when it's coming up in November, December. So, a site that does well in the summer might be a good, balancing act for my portfolio.
Oh yeah, it does extremely well in the summer, but yeah, that's just the way this goes. Yeah, definitely. If you had a business that does well in the winter, it wouldn't be a bad bet at all. One thing that I found is focusing, and I've done this in the past, is focus advertising in Australia specifically during the winter here in the US. So you kind of focus on places that have nice weather at the time that we're in our low season for motorcycles, and that works well too.
That's slick. Where do you ship to? Do you ship worldwide? Is there anywhere you don't ship to? Where are most of your customers at?
But we've always shipped worldwide. Obviously, the majority of customers in the US, Australia has always been pretty big, quite a bit to the UK. At some point, I've probably about a year into doing this, I stopped shipping to, I'm trying to remember now, I believe it was Singapore. I had one particular country that I just had multiple credit card fraud attempts from, and I just completely stopped shipping there. And I have that built into this web store, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it was Singapore.
Yeah, credit card fraud is scary with an e-commerce business. It's funny, if it's Singapore, right. The funny thing is I doubt it's Singaporeans, because like Singapore is really well built up. They've got a ton of money, but that's kind of a hub for other countries that are looking to scam, place in the US, UK, or whatever.
Oh, sure. And it very well may not be there at all. That's just, and I may not even be recalling the right country. This was a couple of years ago. Yeah. But, I just did that to protect myself because I didn't have any legitimate orders going there.
That sucks. Yeah, we dealt with some credit card fraud. It's really painful.
It is. It's really difficult, but that's unfortunately part of the e-commerce game now. You just have to be aware and protect yourself.
So tell me a little bit about, what percentage of your sales are from products that you have inventoried, and what percentage of your sales are dropship products?
The inventory is the majority. Off the top of my head, I'm going to say is probably 60% inventory, 40% dropshipping, roughly.
Okay, and then how much inventory do you currently have in terms of wholesale value?
About 100 and roughly. Oh, I'm sorry. Wholesale value is about 35,000. Retail value is somewhere around 105,000, something like that.
Gotcha. And how much space does that take up?
Not much. It could easily be stored in. At the moment, I have it in less than a 10 by 10 space. Probably, if I took up the actual inventory rooms, probably let's say like 6 by 8 feet, roughly.
Okay,
for the actual inventory, yeah. You don't need a ton of space to store this.
How many SKUs do you have?
I'm going to say probably about 40.
Okay, that's not bad at all.
No, it's not a ton.
So are most of the sales from 4 to 6 SKUs? Like, is that generally how it works, or is it like across the board?
Well, most of what this business sells is two parts that go together. So what this specifically focuses on is the charging system for motorcycles. So if you think in your car's got an alternator that charges the battery. Well, a motorcycle system has two parts that are responsible for keeping the battery charged, so it'll start the next time. One's called a stator, one's called a voltage regulator. Those two guys go together. Like, they're generally replaced at the same time.
Gotcha.
So that makes it very common for an order to be two pieces at least, to order those guys that go, that are generally replaced together. These parts can be sold as a replacement part. So say, one fails, you need another one to get your bike on the road. It can also be sold as an upgrade part. So, you buy this one because it's better. It puts out more power. And then there's lots of add-ons that go along with it. Cool. I won't go into too much detail, but you can end up, I'd say the average order is 2 SKUs. You could end up with, probably 4 up to 5 is not uncommon.
How are your funnel set up? So do you have right now like cart abandonment, automation in terms of emails and that kind of thing? Do you have an email list with autoresponders? Do you have anything like that?
I do not. I do have an email list of all customers, of all basically the web store records of all the customers. I personally have not done any sort of email marketing. I've not done any cart abandonment, nothing like that. Mainly because I'm personally not a fan of it.
Yep.
And I'm sure it could produce done correctly. I just have not been that guy to do that.
What percentage of your sales go through eBay versus the site directly?
eBay, probably roughly about 60% eBay, 40% website at this point.
I'm guessing you get better margins on the site rather than eBay, because eBay sucks up fees, right?
Correct. Hands down, the site is preferable. eBay, it was something that I tested, and I didn't ever have any intentions of having that be a big outlet for my parts, but it is such a huge market that you can't ignore it. And just, paying their fees, eBay and PayPal, which you're kind of required to use with them, they all take their cut, but that's just the price of buying into their massive market. And for the motorcycle industry and automotive, eBay has turned into one of the biggest hubs for those parts. So, you're missing out on something if you're not selling on there for these type of stuff.
Why are you not selling on Amazon?
It's something that should be done, actually, and I've looked into it recently. In the past, Amazon did not focus well at all on automotive or motorcycle, so their number one issue was their lack of easily being able to find parts that applied to your make, model, or year of vehicle.
Yeah.
While eBay did a good job of that early on, and that's why they did so well with this industry. Amazon, however, has put a ton of work into that recently, and I have been looking into it. It's really improved. So a next step for this is to get these parts listed on Amazon, because I think it's worth another look.
Well, we're going to get into opportunities right now, actually, and we already mentioned one of them. I mean, you've kind of expanded, which is smart, by the way. I really like the way you did this. You expanded via drop shipping, saying, look, I don't want to outlay all this cash. It's intensive on the business, and, it'll crush me. I can't expand fast enough, so let me drop ship. And then you find the products that are doing really well with drop shipping, then you can source them yourself from China, bring them over, and improve your margins. That's slick. I think another opportunity, you just mentioned, is to turn around and sell this on Amazon. I know a bunch of people crush on Amazon. Amazon is the 10,000-pound gorilla,
right?
And they're just crushing it in terms of sales. I mean, you might hurt yourself in the long term switching over to Amazon, right? Because they're just crushing people. But
right,
there's a ton of sales going on over there. So I think that there's probably an opportunity. Is there anything that keeps the products that you sell from being listed on Amazon? Are they banned by Amazon or any way, or no?
No, not at all. Like I said, I used to sell on Amazon.
Cool.
And I did that before actually I started selling on eBay. But it didn't end up really being worth maintaining the listings there in the long run.
Gotcha.
But this was, at least 2 years ago, if not longer. So it's, after seeing the improvements they've made to the automotive sections there, it's definitely worth another look.
And you're not like an Amazon FBA guy. You don't do a bunch of other stuff on Amazon. So you're not, that's not your area.
No, I don't even use Amazon often for, regular purchases. I'm not attached to them at all, but I just think that that's a good outlet for this kind of thing now. It's at least worth another shot after all the improvements.
Yeah, I see that being a huge opportunity for a potential buyer on the site, man. Do you have any other opportunities you can think of? And we talked about, expanding with drop shipping and then, shutting that down and making that in-house, sourced. And then Amazon, what else? What other opportunities for the site do you think there are?
Well, I really think drop shipping is the key, is a huge future for this website. The website does well for its organic search results for a lot of different motorcycle, electrical related keywords. And I think kind of the sky's the limit with drop shipping through the website, because there's just a lot of distributors, there's a lot of manufacturers that would be happy to sell you their parts, and you could really add anything electrical related to this website: batteries, lights, turn signals, I mean, you name it. There's a lot of electrical things that go along with motorcycles, and it could easily be a one-stop shop for anything electrical related. And with drop shipping, you don't have to carry inventory, which just makes it so much easier.
That's your electrical engineering background kicking in. You're like, oh my God, there's so many electrical opportunities.
Well, it's the niche. That's why I got into this. It was a niche in the motorcycle world, I guess, for e-commerce that just wasn't covered very well.
Yeah. Let's talk now about the risks. I mean, every business has some risks, has some concerns. Wherever there's an upside, there's some downside too. I mean, one of the clearest ones, I think, is because this is mostly based on organic, you're always at the whims of Google. So, they could say you're great this year, and no, we're going to drop you down the search results next year. So that's definitely a risk. Tell me a little bit about your backlinking. Did you use a PBN? Have you done any paid links? What does that look like?
No, I haven't done any of that. Really, not at all. I mean, there's links from blogs and things like that where I've sent parts for review.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of links from forums where I've submitted parts for review, that kind of thing. But I have not done any paid linking at all. So
awesome.
To be honest, I don't have any experience with that, so I couldn't really comment on it.
Okay. Tell me what a risk you see in the business. If you were keeping the business, let's say for the next 3 to 5 years, what would keep you up at night? What would you, worry about over the next few years?
Well, it would probably be the eBay sales side. I see that a lot of Chinese manufacturers, where most of the factories for these type of parts are located, and a lot of them are selling direct on eBay now, which has lowered the price. And eBay's always been a lower priced outlet. I mean, that's just kind of the way it works. But while that's a huge market, I see the price continuing to drop there as it's kind of manufacturer direct on there. And that's why I think focusing on drop shipping is probably a smarter future. But that's probably where most of my worry would be, because I see, the price dropping and people getting used to paying a lower price. Eventually, I think that would turn around with, people, because the quality is just not there. What you get from a company with somebody doing this here is you get the quality control. And I think eventually that, that'll turn around as people don't really care if it's super cheap. If it doesn't work, it doesn't really matter what it costs.
That'd be a way to differentiate from all the Chinese manufacturers getting into the direct sales game, is to go up market, right? Really improve the quality and don't try to be the cheapest. I mean, because they're going to compete on price. So you can go toward the more luxury, high upside products. It's interesting you mentioned the Chinese getting into it directly, the factories looking to retail. I know a guy who knows a guy, I guess, who is going around in China, explaining to the manufacturers how to sell themselves. Mm-hmm. And so, there's been kind of a revolution there. A lot of the FBA guys are having to deal with that. Amazon FBA guys are dealing with all the Chinese manufacturers getting in and competing with them directly. So, yeah, I just think that, in the past, the manufacturers, the guys are like, look, I'd rather sell wholesale. I don't want to deal with the sales side. I don't want to deal with all the hassle and the customer service and stuff. And now they're just realizing like there's just so much more margin there. They just got to get into it. So they set up a partnership or they go for it directly, but they got to get into that game.
Right. Oh, it's happening more and more. But like you said, I think that the key is focusing on quality, and you can't go down and play at the lowest price point because, while it might be great for a couple months, your long term is just not smart.
That's generally true, in most industries, I think. If you can keep a premium product, you're in much better shape. Your margins are better. You're not competing on price. You're not going to go, it's not a race to the bottom, that kind of thing.
Right, correct.
All right, let's talk about the work that you do on a regular basis. Evan, we're going to do day in the life of Evan. So what do you do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis to keep this business running?
Sure. Well, daily, I probably average about 2 hours of work a day. That's answering customer emails, sales inquiries, and then that's processing orders, packing, shipping, and answering phone calls. And I think I mentioned before, well, at least talking with you guys, I would recommend to a buyer not including a phone line with this business. As I've found, the majority of phone calls don't end up being sales phone calls. They end up being kind of free tech support or people looking for free tech support, which can suck up a lot of your time. Yeah, that's probably the good overview of the day. And then kind of spaced out further on, maybe bi-monthly, I would update listings both on eBay and the website, add new products, new dropshipping products to the website, especially tune up the eBay listings. You can always, going back and looking at them, you can always improve things, the descriptions. Over time, I try and film videos, just make a video showing the product, kind of talking about it, and attaching that to both the eBay listings and the website listings.
That's smart. That can separate you from your competition just by doing those videos.
Yeah. Oh, it makes a big difference. And you just, you sit there and talk about it it only needs to be 30 seconds or a minute, and you just kind of show it off, talk about it. And that right there can make the difference.
There's got to be a company out there. Sorry, this is a total tangent, but there's got to be a company out there that I can send my products to that will do all those like high quality videos for them. Let's say I send them, 100 products and they do those videos and kind of like, do the whole walk around HD video. If there's not, there should be, huh?
Yeah, I would be surprised if there wasn't somebody doing that already.
Yeah.
But, half the work that goes into that is writing the script in the first place, knowing what to say. And unfortunately, if you're providing that to somebody else, you're probably still going to have to tell them what to say.
Yeah.
Which is going to be some of the work. But that kind of stuff makes a difference, There's always more information that you can add to give yourself an edge over your competitor. One thing you can do on parts like this is you can add the original manufacturer's part number. So you can go look it up and say, okay, when Honda originally put this part on their bike, their part number was XYZ. Well, if you put that in your listing, that gives somebody an easy way to look up an interchange if they want to, say, use this part on a different bike or something. If they have the original part number, that gives them the kind of a key piece of information so they can use it on other things. Anyways, it's just kind of detailed, but it's just an example. There's always more things you can add.
So someone, that wants to take this over in terms of work required, we're talking 2 hours a day for customer service, for packing, shipping, just kind of the day-to-day answering phone calls, that kind of thing. And then once or twice a month, you're going to check out all the listings. You're going to take that time to add products, to remove products that just aren't working, that kind of thing. So
yeah, correct.
2 hours a day, and then once or twice a month, you're going to kind of do kind of the bigger stuff. The longer term vision stuff.
And to be honest, it really could be streamlined. When I'm at 2 hours a day, I guess I kind of hate to say it, but I'm kind of in a routine just the way I do it and have for a long time.
And sometimes
If
that's
I
5 hours a day and then like 0 hours the next day. I know how that goes.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But if, having somebody else run this and especially handing it off and saying, hey, look, if I really sat down and think about it, here's how I would do this to improve all this stuff. I would think that it could easily be streamlined down to an hour a day, but I'm just kind of in a routine, at probably 2 hours a day average.
Is there any reason you kept the inventory yourself instead of using a company like Shipwire or something like that?
Yeah, it's because I had the room and the time. If I kept doing this, I think I would have somebody else handle the inventory long term because it would just be so much easier to have somebody else do the shipping and packing. I guess the main reason was I had the space. I've always run this business in a large shop because I do motorcycle repair and electrical work. I like working on bikes. So I have a lot of room in the shop. And that's the main reason I've kept doing inventory and shipping is, I had the space and the time, so might as well handle it myself.
What's your average order size, Evan?
What do you mean by that? Like cost?
Your average, someone goes, they buy 1 or 2 or 4 things from you. On average, what does the average customer pay you per order?
Oh, I see. Well, like I said, that we have, 2 main parts that go together, and your average order is going to be around $150. Let's say on average $75 a piece per part.
Yep.
Roughly.
Okay, cool. And then let's talk about some additional information or questions buyers might have. One of the things, Evan, someone getting into this business may worry about is they buy this business from you, and then you turn around and create a site that competes directly. You have the same suppliers, you're using the same drop shippers, and they now have you as competition. Would you be willing to sign or commit to a non-compete with the new buyer?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't have any intentions of doing another business in this same niche. I've done it for a long time. I've had fun with it and I enjoy it, but I don't have any intentions of doing that. So, yeah,
Gotcha.
That's no problem at all.
Okay. And then, if let's say I'm a new buyer or I've little to no experience with e-commerce, I'm going to want to know that you're going to kind of walk me through the process and kind of support me as I get things up and running. How much support do you want to offer a new buyer?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I put in the description off the top of my head, but I think, and I'm very negotiable on this and happy to help hand this off. I think I said I was happily willing to do 10 hours, at least 10 hours of help handing this over. I'm also willing to do in-person help if you want to come to me here in California. I'm happy to sit down and actually, go over stuff in person, which would be very helpful.
Yeah.
But if not, doing it remotely is perfectly fine. 10 hours minimum, happy to do more than that really if it requires it. So that's not a sticking point for me at all. I'm happy to do as much as necessary.
All right.
And also provide email support. I don't really want to lock myself into a ton of phone support in the long run, but I'm happy to do continuing email support for, a couple months.
Cool.
But all that's negotiable, but I'm happy to help with that.
Perfect, Evan. And then, one of the things, obviously, to sell this business, you'd be happy to take all the cash up front and, do a little bit of training and walk. But let's say that someone wanted to buy this and they said, look, I want to make sure the training is going to happen. I'd like to do a split. So I'll give Empire Flippers all 100% of the money up front, but I'd like you to be paid out 70% up front and then 30% after training of 30 days. Is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm very open to, discussing lots of different options about that. But like what you described would be perfectly fine.
Cool. All right, well, let's do a quick wrap up about this business. Again, the niche is motorcycle and motorcycle parts. It was built in January 2012, so it's definitely got some age to it. The monthly revenue is $8,379 a month. Again, that's a 12-month average. The profit is just under $4,000 a month. Again, 12-month average. The eBay store is included, which accounts for about 60% of sales. We're listing this at a 20x multiple, and it's got a 47% margin. This is both a e-commerce business and a drop shipping business. And that's about it. Does that sound about right, Evan?
Yeah, I think he said a 20x multiple. It's at 26.
26x. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. 26x multiple.
No worries.
You're like, hey, man, don't go cheap on
don't
me.
forget. Don't forget.
You're crushing me, man. You're losing me money. Evan, if you could give me your best pitch over the next 30 seconds on why you think someone should buy the site, what would it be?
Well, I think it's a good website. It's good business with a proven track record. I think, it certainly helps if you're interested in the motorcycle industry. That's a thing that's, a hobby and a passion for a lot of people. So it can be something that, if you already enjoy those kind of things, this gives you a great outlet for that. And if not, still a good niche and a great thing to learn about. I think it has a, great future with both inventory and drop shipping. And, it's really a fun way to make a living.
Awesome, man. Well, for anyone listening to this or any potential buyers that are on YouTube or elsewhere, and they'd like more information about this site, they can head on over to empireflippers.com, click on the link in the show notes, and head over to listing 40365, where you'll get more information, the listing and the description and everything. If you're on that site, or if you're on our site and on that listing, I would like even more detailed information, including earnings history, traffic history, and all the details. Go ahead and pay the 100% refundable deposit. You can go up to the top right-hand side and click the deposit button. Send us your deposit, and we'll send you all the information on the business so you can do your due diligence and make an informed buying decision. Again, Evan, thanks so much for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Justin. I appreciate it.